Welcome to my Days of Our Lives official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Eric reunites Nicole and Jude in Horton Town Square. Maggie joins Xander and Sarah for tea. Maggie claimed she had demanded to get out of the manse. Xander rolled his eyes and inquired if Maggie's relief might have commodity to do with being down from Constantine. Maggie assured them that she and Constantine were fine. Xander and Sarah were all grins, and Maggie noticed the ring on Sarah's hand. The happy couple verified that they were engaged. An overjoyed Maggie hastened over and hugged them both. After she returned to her seat, she wanted details about the marriage planning. Xander and Sarah held hands as they streamlined her on their plans for a Scotland honeymoon. Xander wanted to show Sarah my nonage hangouts, or at least the bones I am allowed to go back to. Maggie also made a fuss over Sarah's custom engagement ring, which Maggie believed fit Sarah impeccably. As the couple lulled in their happiness and participated a kiss, Maggie looked wistful. She told them they merited this moment after all the obstacles they had endured. Maggie did want a favor. She asked Sarah to hold off on her marriage until Maggie had married Constantine. Sarah was curious as to why Maggie had made the request. Maggie covered by claiming that she wanted to be completely present for Sarah and Xander's marriage and not detracted by her own plans. When Maggie mentioned Alex and Teresa's forthcoming move into the manse, the news surprised Xander. Maggie reminded Xander that, as Victor's heir at law, Alex was entitled to live at the manse. Sarah wondered about Teresa's presence. Maggie didn't want to pry into Alex and Teresa's relationship but assumed they had gotten close. Xander made a crack about Teresa being after Alex's fortune. Sarah nudged him and spoke about Maggie's soft spot for Teresa. Maggie defended Teresa as someone who wants to be loved. Xander asked Maggie how she'd feel when Hurricane Alex and Tornado Teresa arrived, adding to Constantine, Justin, and Bonnie's hearthstone at the manse. Xander made a point about too important togetherness, and Maggie didn't look enthused at the prospect. Maggie mused about the revolving door, the Kiriaki's manse had come, and Sarah attributed the numerous guests to Maggie's kindness. Victoria awakened from a nap, so Xander took her to change her diaper. Sarah said she was glad for the alone time because she had wanted to bandy commodity with Maggie. Latterly, Sarah asked Maggie if she liked Sarah's idea for the marriage. Maggie believed it would make the day special, but she allowed Sarah should tell Xander. Sarah agreed and hoped Xander would be open to her idea. At the Black Patch office, Rafe dropped off a train on Clyde's book to John and Steve. Rafe hoped the investigators' ISA connections could help with decrypting the book. When Rafe mentioned the department being trespassed, Steve guessed that numerous of the open cases were connected to Clyde's crimes. Rafe verified it, but he was more interested in the blood that had been set up on the outside of the book, because that blood could be the key to securing Gobby's freedom. Rafe streamlined John and Steve on his proposition that Gil had killed Lee. Rafe believed that since Melinda had been reinstalled ASD.A, she'd renew the case. Given her passions for Lee, John and Steve wished Rafe luck. After Rafe left, Steve and John sympathized with the proceedances the operative was trying to juggle. They were glad to be suitable to help with the Clyde situation. John pressed Steve about the ideal of their charge against Clyde and about how far they were willing to go to neutralize the fugitive. Steve wanted John to concentrate on the Constantine situation while Steve took the lead on Clyde. Steve flashed back to Ava inferring she'd kill Clyde. Also, Steve told John that Steve demanded to keep an eye on Ava. John confided Steve for dealing so calmly with his crazy partner and marveled at the prospect of Steve and Ava getting on. Steve clarified that Ava and he were only working together because they had a common thing. John bothered about the Clyde case snooping with Steve and John's capability to help Maggie, but Steve assured John that he'd not let that be. John streamlined Steve on Maggie's full plan for catching Constantine in the embezzling scheme. Steve respected Maggie's frippery, while John hoped she could pull off the plan before she had to marry Constantine. Latterly, John and Steve perfected their plans to turn the Black Book over to the ISA decoders. John called Steve his family and pledged that neither Clyde nor Constantine would come between them. I trust you with my life, John said. Right back at you, family, Steve added, also he hugged John. Harris walked through the door of Ava's apartment, sheathed in his navy livery. He jokingly asked if Ava always kept her door open for non-natives, and Ava verified only the handsome bones. They enjoyed a reunion kiss. Harris explained that he'd been attending a Memorial Day service in Arlington. Ava assumed it had been hard to visit the graves of fellow dogfaces who had been lost. Harris admitted it was delicate but affirmed he remained thankful for the dogfaces' offerings. He allowed. Flashing back their benefactions in clearing the world of wrong was especially important, given that he and Ava had Clyde Weston in their sights. Ava agreed that they demanded to relieve the world of that evil bastard. Ava tried to distract Harris with temptation, as she purred that there was commodity about a man in a livery, or out of it. He begrudgingly reminded her that they demanded to stay focused on the task at hand, getting Clyde. Ava reluctantly backed off and brought Harris up to speed on the developments with Lee's case. Ava dreaded having to tell Wendy that Ava had potentially been laterally responsible for the death of Wendy's family. Harris assured her. Harris verified to Ava that he and his Navy musketeers had been unprofitable in decrypting the book. He did have stopgap that they could track Clyde's position through untranslated dispatch. At the police station, Rafe yelled at someone over the phone about the lack of progress in locating Everett. After he hung up, Harris arrived. Rafe ate him back, asked about his Memorial Day, and thanked him for his service. Harris again broached the subject of taking further time off. Rafe wanted to know why, but Harris held off on telling him. Harris also inferred that he might quit if he wasn't given the leave of absence. Rafe ultimately acceded and said he hoped Harris's job was still staying when Harris returned. After Harris returned from his meeting with Rafe, he and Ava transferred the dispatch to Clyde and hoped for the stylish. They both expressed alarm about leaving their jobs temporarily while they hunted for Clyde. Harris justified the absences by affirming the pledge he'd taken to serve and cover. Ava believed it was she and Harris alone against Clyde. Harris corrected her and said he wanted to circle someone differently in. Latterly, Ava told Harris that she'd inform Roman about demanding to leave city on an exigency. Harris was frustrated that Clyde had not yet taken the bait, but he grew enthusiastic when he got an alert attesting Clyde had eventually opened the dispatch. Harris blazoned that he and Ava were going to Montana. With one whole stop along the way, he added. At the demerriments, Nicole cradled Jude. She wanted an explanation for why Eric had claimed Jude was her son. J. Faked bafflement, as well. Eric bare what he'd been told about the night Nicole had given birth, ending with Dimitri having brought Jude to Sloan. Nicole was confused why the croaker